method, and we'll introduce ourselves.
I'm Zach Kent.
I'm Patrick Landwehr.
Jessica Zuniga.
I'm Christina Elliott.
Michael Walensky.
What is Brian?
Today we're going to be talking about a couple of points. We'll go over the synopsis of the student example we're providing today. We have a survey example for you guys to fill out, a history of the method we're going to discuss today, description of the technique, and the appellations of the Delphi method. Once we have your surveys back, we'll go over results from that, and we'll discuss possible survey outcomes from there, and we'll compare to what we found in class today. Go over a conclusion and some presentation.
Okay, a little synopsis of the student example that we have put together. Our problem is with downtown Terre Haute. We're trying to grow as a community and generate some revenue. You guys are our test subjects, our panel, business 371 students.
And for what we've decided to put together is, with the Delphi method, they typically meet through multiple meetings. So what we've set in place is the first meeting has already occurred, and as the panel decided that the restaurant would be the best possible way to generate revenue in Terre Haute. So today is our second meeting, and the survey you're completing will hopefully reach a consensus as to which restaurant will be in downtown Terre Haute. And if you can, please fill out your survey, and we're going to collect those once you pass them to the end of your row. We can take about a minute or so. Just to clarify the instructions, it's ranking from 1 to 5, so go through it. You do have an option towards the bottom where if you don't see your top choice or an option you think would best suit downtown Terre Haute, you can add that to your ranking. So that's kind of a way to let you guys have a bit more of a say in it, a bit more of an input. And we'll start to go into the next slide as long as everyone's mostly wrapped up. We're going to get into the history of Delphi method.
Okay, so the history of the Delphi method. This was right around the time of the Cold War, in the midst of the 1950s. There's no certain area of time. It's still being discussed when the Cold War occurred, but this was right there in between. So around this time, there was a hunger for military weaponry, nuclear, unusual, that's Cold War. And the RAND Corporation, Research and Development, is a nonprofit organization that instills theory into applied science. This was mostly used for the United States Army. They specialize in forecasting future technology and solving problems through operations research. But also, most notably, it was known for future military technology. This is the RAND Corporation. Now, at first, they wanted to get really good input on the future. So they decided, all right, what better way than gathering everybody's experts? They gathered some experts, brought them in a room, and they tried to get their opinions in order to get a consensus answer, especially to a particular question. What they found out was actually that when brought together in a room, people were usually overshadowed by something else. Either they're really loud and they explain their opinion really loudly, and even though some people with the soundest arguments, they just didn't go with them. They're like, hey, this guy's expressing himself more loudly. We're gonna go with him. So, as a result, if that wasn't bad enough, some people would just, you know what, I'm not changing my opinion. My colleagues are in the same room. I have a reputation to keep. Now, as a result, also the RAND researchers came together to find a better solution and in order to receive a mutual agreement. Olaf Helmer, Nicholas Rester, and Norman Delphi, and other RAND research developers, they came together to form the method known as the Delphi method. And this was needed for the military advancement during this time. Now the name came from the Greek oracle in Delphi, Greece, because he, nobody knows. It's Greek mythology, guys, I really don't know. But they could tell the future fortunes for the Greek heroes, something along those lines. So they thought that was humorous. Later on, people were like, that's a dumb name, but okay, let's continue on. This method was designed to give true debate and response through having each expert contribute anonymously. They would utilize this method by theorizing the possibility of future enemy attacks. As questions were sent out, the researchers reviewed the feedback and sent back a consensus summary to the experts and waited for a response for that. So this is a technique that comes back and forth until everybody comes to an agreement. This is the Delphi method. It's anonymous and with constant feedback and questionnaires until a consensus agreement is reached.
I'm going to talk about the description of the Delphi method now. Like Jessica was saying, it is a consensus building method, and it uses surveys and questionnaires. There's a facilitator and experts. There's usually about 20 to 25 experts, and these experts are chosen by the facilitator and people who will be working with the information that they provide. They are usually in the same field, and it is assumed that they have the same knowledge base. Because they are anonymous and no one is interacting with one another, it's important that they think the same way, or they think that they have the same background to lessen the variability with the type of individuals. The objectives of the tool, it is to determine or develop a range of possible alternatives. The original questionnaire that's sent out is an open questionnaire, so a lot of people give their feedback of where they want to start for the topic and kind of narrow down the idea of what they think. And after that, then alternatives will start to develop and the surveys start to begin. It's used to explore and expose underlying assumptions or information leading to different judgments. Since it's not a clear-cut answer, there's a lot of different judgments and perspectives that are taken into consideration in the analysis. It's used to correlate and inform judgment on topics spanning a wide variety of disciplines, educate the respondent group in diverse and related aspects of the topic. And some key characteristics of the Delphi method is, like Jessica was saying, anonymity. This helps eliminate groupthink as well as social pressure from people not interacting with one another. A lot of times people in groups feel like they are not able to give their opinion or they feel overshadowed by somebody else. So having this where everyone can sit down separately and work on their work, then they can give their full attention to their thoughts and contribute everything that they have. Controlled feedback process. With the various different rounds of the method, people can reassess their judgments throughout the entirety of the survey. If they get feedback from other people and they realize that originally that's something that not they had thought of, then they can submit their judgments on that. And there's a variety of statistical analysis within the Delphi method, so it's not a clear cut. We use a ranking system, we can use charts and graphs. There's a lot of qualitative and quantitative data, so it's up to the facilitator to kind of guide where they want to go with that and what they think the best method is for that. And then roles of the participants, there's a facilitator and the experts, like I said before. The facilitator takes all of these surveys and compiles a general consensus of what they believe, and they develop another survey to hand out to them. And the experts are the subjects who are giving their input on the process. And then an overview of the process, basically summing up what I've been talking about. So at the beginning, the first step is determining the issue to be discussed and realizing that the Delphi method is the best choice for that. And then a facilitator and a panel of experts are chosen. And then the first questionnaire is administered, and the experts will take that information and respond to it. After that, the facilitator will analyze that information and find the correlations within that, develop a more focused survey and send that out, and this process just keeps continuing until they have a general consensus together. And it's usually about 2 or 4 rounds.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of explain to what the applications the Delphi method would be used for. As Patrick kind of explained previously, the method basically is used to have like a broad subject matter and everything like that with smaller amounts of internal stuff that can be whittled down and everything like that. So you're like we've been saying, it's all about coming to a consensus with everything. Having that consensus, we will finally come to an agreement and all that. Basically, this is multiple industries can use this method of basically coming to a decision, but some of the few that I looked at the most were the service and retail industry in forecasting for sales, like how much do we think that this item is going to sell, like, so basically we can have like, an idea of like a number. Marketing and research obviously could use this because they would know what people would want and everything like that, hence what we're doing today. And like the original use by the Rand Corporation some 70 to 60 years ago in military use, in order to basically find out how many nuclear weapons we should be holding in case of possible attack from the Soviet Union at the time.
Well, back to that.
As you can see, this process is really long. There are, it usually takes weeks, I mean, because most of it's mailed out or handed through employees. So it does take a long process. As you can see, she's been trying to put in some of your data, but it's a long process and it's hard to put it in as quickly. I mean, we can give you some of the quick results that we have right now. And
We would say that the higher ranking was for the Dunkin' Donuts, even though it's not projected through here because I wasn't able to input all of our points quite yet. This was just a preview, that way you could kind of get a visual of how it would look once we would calculate everything and put it all through. But we noticed, even just from the few surveys I got through, is that most people were able to respond to the 4 given choices we provided you. If you listed other, you ranked it pretty highly, but most people would not be willing to share input that wasn't already predetermined by the panel and by the people that were running the presentation. So I'm trying to think of anything else we can touch on. The results, as far as I pulled up, the 4 rank very closely together, so we can get into our next slide. These are the possible outcomes that we would have seen today, or through any Delphi method process.
the first objective we're trying to get is consensus from all of you guys. We want you to pick Dunkin' Donuts or whatever choice you would like to make. And if we do not get that, then we would go farther with other surveys if we didn't get the consensus.
So seeing just the few results that we were able to plug in today, we noticed that we aren't able to determine what restaurant would be selected as the top choice. So an additional meeting would have to occur and more questioning on behalf of the panel to figure out what restaurant would best suit Terre Haute.
Okay, as a conclusion, some modern practices that you would see using the Delphi method approach is the healthcare system, the athletic training, and even retail industry. Now, this is really out there. Like, it first started as a military use through the Rand Corporation, but obviously it has transitioned through the panel of experts around even the healthcare system. Some examples were with cancer. Like, they brought in all the cancer experts. They were asking some general questions until they came to a consensus answer and results. Now, a few unique advantages of the Delphi method are it's, I can't even say this, anonymity. Yeah, you say it. Group expertise response and rapid consensus results. Now, this is really good because it's like, all right, we have a question out there, we have the results. Let's get together all the experts. We think we know what we're doing, but the disadvantages of the Delphi method include how time-consuming it might be, the quality of experts, and not being agreeable with various of options. Even though, for example, if we were talking about the cancer, like if they started saying lima beans cause cancer, like that just came out of nowhere. very various opinions. It's kind of hard to rein all those in order to come to an agreement.
And even with our example today, if you did list other, if you listed a restaurant that wasn't in the top 4, it would take further, investigation as to what restaurant would reach that consensus with the panel. That's our presentation today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for you all. Christina, you made the observation that not very many people added their own idea for a restaurant. Is this a consistent finding with this tool or with surveying in general, that usually respondents only go with the choices provided?
I would say that's very true. In a lot of the examples we pulled through our research, we noticed that if it wasn't something that kind of was predetermined by the panel, it was hardly spoken of. It was harder for people to put that information together. So, I don't know. Is there anything else you guys want to add?
Yeah, I think with that idea, it's more like the idea that people like to know what is available and not have to come up with their own options. It makes it a lot easier on the mind to pick from a set list and to come up with your own scenario.
And from the consensus, like, these are what the experts came up with. So that's already a predetermined thought process. So we're like, all right, we're just gonna go by this. But you know what, it's varied. That's why it takes such a long process, because it varies. Oh, here's another suggestion. So that's when people come back again, they're like, all right, here's another summarized response.
Giving them the impression that they had a huge input, but maybe not as great as it really is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian.
Okay, so I'm not going to move